Hello and welcome to Horror Cult Trash Over, the show that discusses all of the masterpieces and trash pieces of genre cinema. I'm Gary.
And I'm Chris.
And we've got something a little new for you today.
Something a little different.
As you know, this year is a celebration of 5 years of Horror Cult Trash Over, so each month is a theme. And I've come up with something a little new for March. This month is Mix and March. Like mix and match, but
and what does
March.
What does that entail, Gary?
This is basically the if you enjoy this, check out section stretched out into entire episodes. So we'll give you a film and then we'll give you another film that has similar themes, similar plots, and so on. And we'll do little comparisons throughout and one big comparison at the end. I hope that makes sense. And it's just an excuse to discuss two great films in one episode. But before we get into our first one, what's new with Chris and Gary?
What is new with Chris and Gary, actually?
Positives, actually. No worst of the week this week. Just two lots of... if we're going to go worst of the week, then it's Jay McDonald's team on UK vs. the World Snatch Game. That's the worst of the week.
That was very disappointing. That's a strong team.
Poor Jane.
I feel like... number one, I feel like Jay McDonald was the funniest, and she should have won Snatch Game.
It's true.
But I do feel that potentially a language barrier came into play.
Potentially.
And a sort of kind of English culture sort of confusion. I do, because we've watched a few of the other drag races from around the world, and sometimes the humour doesn't necessarily translate. Despite that being a very strong team, they just weren't very funny, if I'm being honest.
But back to our positives.
Yes,
the Sunita team, they were great.
Yes, they were.
So...
Is this not a Drag Race podcast?
Before we get to our two best, I think Waiting to Exhale deserves a mention. I think we mentioned that last week.
We did mention it last week.
Ignore me.
Yeah. Well, you're doing that thing you always do.
I know, yeah.
Sometimes never change on the podcast.
One thing deserves a mention, and that is Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. The Martin Scorsese film starring Queen Ellen Burstyn. And it's just her getting annoyed by her fucking kid for 2 hours, and it's fantastic.
It was me getting annoyed by her kid for 2 hours. But yeah, a phenomenal performance. Fantastic film. Loved it. It's absolutely our kind of thing.
Yeah.
Surprising from Martin Scorsese, because I don't always associate women with Martin Scorsese's films.
Yeah, it's not often that Martin Scorsese makes a film about women. I don't know if he did it again. I don't know. I haven't seen enough. I've seen a lot of his films, but he has a lot of films, so I don't know if I've seen enough of his films to say whether or not he has any other films about women. He has more than Christopher Nolan. That's the win.
I think a lot of his films happen to feature women.
Yeah.
But if in terms of a film that is solely about a woman...
Yeah.
And I don't think there has been another one, but again,
Yeah.
Oh, Boxcar Bertha.
Okay.
Which is slightly earlier film. So
yeah, but it's great. I really want to watch more of his early work now, but thanks to that. But as for our two best of the week... We'll go with old first. Well, I mean, I assume it's the same for you. Mine is Isle of Dogs.
Isle of Dogs.
Do you?
Yes, I do. Isle of Dogs, and I love Isle of Dogs.
Yeah,
as well.
It's just Wes Anderson's just such a perfect filmmaker. Like, he can do no wrong. He's fast becoming one of my favorites because we hadn't seen his films until last year, and we've still got 4 left to go. And one of those is what's apparently his best film, Grand Budapest Hotel. But so far, I don't know how he's going to outdo some of these. I mean, Fantastic Mr. Fox is my favourite Wes Anderson film. But Isle of Dogs, oh my god, he needs to do more stop-motion animation. It's just such a lovely, touching, but very serious, and probably his most political film as well. It's a perfect example of how to do an animated film for adults. But there's still enough there to be enjoyed by kids.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it 100 with you. I always thought that Wes Anderson... would be or his films would be rather wanky.
Yeah.
A little lost up his own arse, style over substance, and almost like an offshoot of Film Bro.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you gotta watch Wes Anderson. It's this, it's that, it's the other. And if unless I'm mistaken, our first Wes Anderson film that we watched was French
French Dispatch.
Dispatch,
Yeah.
which is a weird starting point for
Mm-hmm.
Wes Anderson, and a
Yeah.
lot of people don't think it's his best film. I fucking loved it,
Yeah,
and I
it's
thought,
great.
oh wow,
Mm.
what a dickhead,
It does sum up what he does.
missing out on these films, and we're working our way through. And Isle of Dogs, I just thought it was beautiful,
Yeah, it's one of the best looking animation films I've ever seen.
heartwarming. Me and Gary, we're a bit obsessed with dogs as well. We don't have any, unfortunately, but we love dogs and animals in general. But I think dogs are quite high on the
Yeah,
list.
yeah, I
So
think so.
we found it very heartwarming, very
Yes.
cute. But yeah, also like Gary said, some of it's quite political
Yeah.
and very interesting and layered, and yeah, we had a great time with it.
Yeah. And for my second best of the week, a new film, fresh out in cinemas, a film that feels like it was tailor made to my taste. It is Zelda Williams' Lisa Frankenstein.
Yeah, I loved Lisa Frankenstein, and I know Gary loved Lisa Frankenstein, and
Mhm.
he's going to tell you why in a second.
Yeah.
But I didn't think I was going to.
I didn't know how much I was going to, because obviously it's Diablo Cody and Jennifer's Body is one of my favorite films. I love Juno, and I don't know. It just kind of it's one of those where it's like it's been a while since Jennifer's Body. Is it going to be the same sort of thing? Is this going to just be targeted towards Gen Z? Absolutely fucking not. This is definitely a film made by millennials, with a very specific taste in mind. It's got phenomenal costumes in it. It's got amazing set design, such a gothic feel to it that's also reminiscent of Edward Scissorhands, with some of the color scheme used. Great horror horror, whatever. Great horror. Great camp value is what I was gonna say.
Yes.
A perfect soundtrack, great performances. It is just snappy, witty dialogue. It's amazing. It is Jennifer's Body meets Edward Scissorhands, and I can't recommend it enough. Not that I think everyone's going to love it.
No.
I have a very specific taste. You have a very specific taste.
Yes.
But if you happen to share that same very specific taste, you're going to love it.
Yeah, it's campy, it's irreverent, very much like Jennifer's Body, and also very much like Jennifer's Body, not for everyone.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to get it, not everyone has to get it. And we watched a Watch Mojo video recently, and it described the worst films, 10 worst films of the year so far. And this was on the list. Unless I'm mistaken, it was number 2, just below Madam Web.
Yeah.
And word of mouth hadn't been great, and I thought, oh god, what we're going to get is a diluted version of Jennifer's Body.
Yeah.
Where it's going to feel more akin to a Disney Channel original film rather than a Diablo Cody screenplay. I was sadly mistaken. Well, actually, I was pleasantly mistaken, should I say. Pleasantly mistaken. I love the fact that it's gothy, of course, but also Dayglow.
Yeah.
In a lot of scenes. I mean, Lisa Frank, that colour scheme is throughout. It's so 80s. The soundtrack was amazing. I was listening to The Cure today based solely on remembering how much I love them from Lisa Frankenstein. Great. I would really recommend it. If you think you have similar taste to us, and if you've listened to enough episodes, you should know by now.
Yeah.
And if you follow us on Letterboxd and you think you've got similar taste, I highly recommend this.
Absolutely. So, with that being said, talking of the 80s, yes, I got one this week.
Oh.
Speaking of the 80s, we're going back to the 80s this week, and I'm so excited to talk about these two films. We have one film from the 80s and one film that wishes it was in the 80s. Today's double bill for Mix and Match will be The Terminator and The Guest, and the episode is titled Unstoppable Hunky Killer Machines. It's pretty self-explanatory. And I think there's a fair few similarities between the two. Obviously, there's one obvious better film. We're not here to tell you which one's better, which one's worse, but spoiler alert, The Terminator is better. because it is an all-time classic and very much the film that probably got me into films. More on that to come. But The Guest is a great film. I really love it. It is a cult film now, modern cult film, and I'm excited to talk about the two back to back.
Yeah, I think this isn't going to be like original versus remake because there aren't that many comparisons to that degree.
No.
But there are a fair few and a few parallels between the films. So I think it's just a great opportunity for us to talk about these two films and the influence of the Terminator and all that business. So I'm excited to sit here and tell you about it.
And admittedly, there will be more trivia points for the Terminator because there's just not that many about the Guest. But again, this is an episode for both, not just a Terminator episode.
Yes.
Even though we could have very well have done just a Terminator episode. Mm-hmm. But here we are, yes. The Terminator, 1984. Of course, written and directed by James Cameron.
Mm-hmm.
The previous podcast film, Piranha 2 this morning, as well as Titanic, Aliens, Avatar 1 and 2, True Lies, The Abyss, Ghosts of the Abyss, Aliens of the Deep, and Terminator 2 Judgment Day. The greatest sequel ever made, in my opinion.
It's definitely up there.
Yeah. James Cameron, I thought he had way more films.
I thought he was way more prolific. Yeah. And I was looking at Letterboxd and I realised, he hasn't actually got that many films.
Bit of backstory. He got the idea for this film, which we probably mentioned on the Piranha 2 episode, during the post-production of his previous film, Piranha 2 The Spawning in Rome. Since he had been fired from the production, he had spent the last of his own money on the plane ticket to get there, hoping to be at least involved in the editing process. Without money for proper food, he became increasingly sick and went to bed one night with a high fever, and he had a nightmare of a metal endoskeleton emerging from flames, dragging itself over the floor, holding kitchen knives, and when he woke up, he immediately made a drawing of this vision. Most of the script was written backwards from there, so the endoskeleton would have to be futuristic, but since Cameron couldn't afford to set the film in the future, the solution was to bring the future to the present, hence the time travel aspect of the script was written in. When special effects artist Stan Winston was brought in, he added a few more designs for the endoskeleton, but in the end, they basically used the one that Cameron had drawn for the first time. By the way, also, spoiler warning is now in effect for both films.
Oh, yes.
If you haven't seen The Terminator, though, what are you doing?
Yeah, that'd be strange. Well, no, let's not judge people.
No. If you haven't, then go watch it for the first time. And whilst shooting the film, James Cameron often resorted to what he called guerrilla filmmaking as a way of getting around acquiring permits needed to film certain scenes. So this involved the production crew and actors quickly arriving at a specified location, shooting the scene, and leaving before the police arrived. As a result, some of the people seen in a few shots are actually everyday citizens, completely unaware that they're in a film. This is also used for reshoots, with Cameron even calling and waking Arnold Schwarzenegger once at 3 a.m. to meet him at a location already in full costume to quickly reshoot a scene. He also used this tactic to film the very last scene where Sarah drives off into the desert, waiting for the heat to rise to the point that ripples could be filmed. A highway patrolman appeared. Writer-producer Gail Ann Hurd convinced him they were working on a UCLA film project and he allowed them to finish. So, one big takeaway from actually researching this film and actually looking into it quite in depth is that I've never really thought of it as a low-budget film, but it was actually a low-budget film made by a nobody, which is incredible.
Yeah.
That he achieved something of this scale from nothing.
Yeah. I think where Terminator has come to in terms of being a brand, really, is huge compared to its roots. And it doesn't feel like a low budget film.
No.
And that's the marks of a great filmmaker. And you know, it's in the millions. If somebody had,
it is in the millions.
If I woke up and that amount was in my bank account tomorrow, it wouldn't feel low budget.
Yeah,
but in terms of Hollywood filmmaking, that's very low.
And like when you think of the war scenes, the futuristic war scenes, the fact that they were done on such a low budget is insane.
Yeah.
It's co-written by Gail Ann Hurd. It's the only film she wrote, but she was producer on Bad Dreams, Raising Cain, Dante's Peak, Virus, Dick, The Punisher, Hulk, Tremors, Aliens, The Abyss, Terminator 2 and 3, The Walking Dead, and more. And it's also co-written by William Wisher, who worked on Terminator 2, The 13th Warrior, IT, Exorcist the Beginner, Dominion, the Beginning, Dominion prequel to The Exorcist, Judge Dredd, and Desperado the Outlaw Wars.
Okay.
The initial draft for the film was sold to Gale and Hurd, James Cameron's production partner and former collaborator at New World Pictures, for the price of $1.
Oh, bargain.
Just $1.
Bargain.
The symbolic gesture came with a blood oath. Hurd had to promise to do everything in her power to get the film produced, but with Cameron as director. And she kept her word and dismissed every studio that showed interest but wanted to ditch James Cameron for being a nobody. He and Hurd would get romantically involved during production of this film, and they made Aliens and The Abyss together, and were married from 1985 to 1989.
Okay. He tends to marry his colleagues.
He does, including another one from this film.
Yes, yeah. Much later on, surprisingly. But much later on, yes.
And this film is now obviously considered a sci-fi classic, but it was originally, much like the second film we're talking about today, conceived and written as a horror film. And if you strip away the robots and time travel plot, it's very similar to a slasher film, borrows many of the genre's tropes, most prominently from Halloween and Halloween 2. The Guest features a lot of nods to Halloween 3 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
So there's another parallel for you. Before we just go back to that bit, budget $6.4 million. It made $78.3 million worldwide. Absolute gigantic hit.
Yeah, really. Considering the budget like that, that's a huge hit.
Yeah.
And then progressively the other films made more, branding and merchandise and all that.
Yeah.
It's probably made everyone involved a pretty penny.
Yeah, that $1 script was worth it.
Yeah.
It's had a troublesome franchise, should we say, over the years. Amazing how this is one of the greatest films ever made, and Terminator 2 is, the best sequel ever made, in my opinion. And then we go from that to Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, the film where it starts with Arnie going to a gay bar and stealing a gay stripper's costumes while telling to talk to the hand. I'm not making it up.
2000s were wild.
Terminator Salvation, Christian Bale, set problems. Do I need to say any more? Terminator Genesis, a film that remade scenes from this film to try and rewrite the franchise, to restart it. It's a mess. Oh, and one that you've seen, Terminator Dark Fate. I'll leave that one to you.
Yeah, I've only ever watched Terminator films with Linda Hamilton in. Dark Fate was by far the worst. It wasn't good. It wasn't even close to good. It was bad. Bottom of the barrel. Did not enjoy it. Did you ever watch Sarah Connor Chronicles?
I didn't. That's meant to be alright though.
With
Lena Headey. Yeah. No, I haven't watched it. But as far as the other films go, it's one of those. It's like, just let the franchise die. Leave it. You got Terminator 1 and 2. That's great.
We were so excited for Dark Fate, though.
We were,
and I don't. Yeah, it's a shame, really. But
that was the one chance to bring Linda Hamilton back.
Yes,
she's not going to come back again.
No,
and it was just a basic mess. But we've had some great games. Do you remember Terminator vs. RoboCop?
I do, yes.
That was great. Terminator 3 on PS2, where you could play as either the male or female Terminator.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. There's probably some other ones as well that I can't remember. But either way, this franchise, when did you watch it for the first time?
Oh,
it was when I showed you, wasn't it?
No.
Was it not?
No. I distinctly remember watching parts of 2.
Yeah.
When I was younger. I never properly watched Terminator 2 until I met you. Like, fully sat down, watched it, taken it in, understanding what this, that, and the other is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the first one I watched, yeah, wait, I must have been like what, 16, 17. Had it on DVD.
Oh.
Yeah, proper old school DVD it was.
Nice. I watched both at a very young age.
Far too young.
I often say
Crazy.
Friday the 13th is the first horror film I watched, but if we're classing the Terminator as a horror film, which I fully stand by the fact it is a horror film, then it's actually probably the Terminator, and I was probably about 6 years old. Got it on VHS from a car boot.
Wow.
And yeah, for some reason my parents let me watch it, and I was obsessed. And then obviously Terminator 2 as well. I was completely obsessed. I remember when DVDs started coming out, I had it on DVD with a little portable DVD player.
Oh. I never had a portable DVD player.
Technology. But yeah, I can recite both films word for word. Like, I've seen them so many times, and they're just perfect films. And I really think I would credit the Terminator with the film that sparked my interest in films in general. It's one of the earliest films I remember watching, which is absolutely terrible. But I love it. And all these years later, it still holds up so well. And again, you know, Terminator 2, it's just a masterpiece. It's perfect in every way. But yeah, no, special place in my heart for this film. So should we talk about who's in it?
Yeah, in a section we like to call Hey, I Know You.
We of course have Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator. He was in all of the Terminator sequels except Salvation, where he was replaced by a CGI version of him.
Oh my god.
Naked as well.
Oh.
Fighting Christian Bale.
Oh.
The Sixth Day, Last Action Hero. Talk about a special place in my heart. That is another one. Predator, The Running Man, Jingle All the Way, True Lies, Total Recall, Conan the Barbarian, Batman and Robin, and more.
Yeah, so this is the film that kick-started his career. He'd had smaller roles. I think was it Pumping Iron he was in?
Yes.
He had a small role in The Long Goodbye, but this was really what kicked off his career. And he was a huge career from this into the 90s and the 2000s. He was governor of California, for fuck's sake. You know, like a huge success story. And it was all pretty much sparked from this film.
Yeah, absolutely. When he was what?
Are we going to say the obvious?
We'll talk about that when it comes to it.
What? How incredible it is, considering he can't act for shit.
Oh, this is his best role.
This is his best role.
Yeah, this is his best role. He is so creepy in this film. He's so good at not talking. Yeah. And it should stay that way. Although, again, may I remind you, Terminator 2.
True Lies.
True Lies.
I thought he was good in True Lies.
And it stops there. His films, he's entertaining to watch, but it's not always for the right reasons.
Yeah, I suppose he's never had to do a proper serious role. It's always been in the sort of action. Yeah. He's never had to show.
He did
real, true emotion.
Yeah, he did some random horror film where his daughter was a zombie. I can't remember what it was called. I didn't watch it. But that was meant to be his serious acting role. Maggie or something like that. I don't know. I didn't watch it because it looked awful. But
I think it is Maggie. Yes. Yeah.
But during the production of Conan the Destroyer, he was interviewed about upcoming projects and referred to the Terminator as some shit film I'm doing. Takes a couple of weeks. He's since taken that statement back, as it was wrong of me to judge the movie before I even got fully involved. James Cameron created a fantastic character, and whilst I was hesitant, I now know the Terminator is a defining work in my career. Yes, it is. And he said it was a small film. We really had to cut costs all the time. We shot it very quickly. We felt we had a good story and it would be successful, but we thought it would be for certain audiences only. No one suspected it would be in Time magazine's top 10 films of the year, and that successful at the box office, and that people demanded a sequel that would be the highest grossing film of that year. I just think it's hilarious that he called it a shit film.
Yeah.
Just some shit film I'm doing.
But he probably said Jingle All the Way was the best script he'd ever read.
Yeah. They wanted him for Kyle Reese
No.
originally, and I'm so glad they didn't. I'm so glad they didn't.
I think it works, and I think Michael Biehn as Kyle Reese works, and we'll talk about why that works.
Yeah. Bless him, wet blanket. O.J. Simpson was considered for the Terminator.
Okay.
But the producers, brace yourself, feared he was too nice to be taken seriously as a cold-blooded killer.
Okay.
Unbelievable.
The irony in that one.
In 1990, before his first trial, Dark Horse Comics actually printed issues using his likeness. They really wanted him for that role. Ron Perlman, Stephen Lang, Chevy Chase,
God,
Michael Keaton, Alec Baldwin, Harrison Ford, Sylvester Stallone, Mel Gibson, Richard Gere, Robin Williams, Jack Nicholson, Martin Sheen, Kevin Costner, and John Travolta were all also considered for the role.
I suppose it depends what you're going for.
Yeah.
Obviously, Arnie's size is his biggest selling point.
Yeah.
His look.
Yeah.
Is his biggest selling point. Works perfectly for the role. But if you're going for something different, like they did in the sequel with Robert Patrick, then I think someone like John Travolta could still have worked.
Yeah.
But I think for this, and for the way that this role is written, Arnie's look is perfect for it.
It is.
It looks perfect on the poster. He looks very menacing. This is his role.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Michael Biehn plays Kyle Reese. He was, of course, in previous podcast film The Fan.
Yes, he'll always be that evil twink trying to kill Lauren Bacall in my eyes.
Yeah,
even more than Kyle Reese. That would always be what I know him for.
He always forms a close connection with women in these films. Now, I know it's romantic in this one, but when you think about, him with Lauren Bacall, him with Sigourney and Aliens, and then him with Linda Hamilton in this, he's just a twink standing strong women.
It's true.
Again, Aliens, The Abyss, The Rock. Have you seen The Abyss?
No,
I haven't seen The Abyss, no. Is there a woman that he's latching onto in that film as well?
Shall I have a look at the cast? Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. Oh, excuse. If you're listening,
with a name like that, she's got a slur.
My apologies, Mary. Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. Oh,
that's probably who he latches onto, then.
Yeah. No, she looks like she's married in it, but yeah, no, my sincerest apologies. I don't know why I screwed that. Why does that so hard to say?
I have no idea. Glad you tackled it and I didn't. He was in The Rock.
I think it was because it was unexpected. Usually with names, I do have a little practice beforehand.
He was in The Mandalorian, Planet Terror, Havoc, Clock Stoppers, Cherry Falls, Zuma Beach, Deadly Intentions, China Rose, and more.
Who the fuck was he in Grease, by the way?
He was uncredited. He was an extra in the background.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
See, this is what happens with Letterboxd, is that Michael Biehn was an uncredited extra in Grease.
Yeah.
But by popularity, it's his second most known film.
He almost didn't get the role because in his first audition he spoke in a southern accent as a result of working on a part for a stage production of Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. He didn't get that role.
Oh.
During a talk with Bean's agent, the producers mentioned that they liked his performance but didn't want his accent, making him seem too regionalised. The puzzled agent asked what accent, and after the mystery was cleared up, the producers called him back for another audition and he got the part. That's some Austin Butler behaviour, that is.
So, he didn't get the part as the closet case, worshipping a glamorous woman.
I know, it's perfect for that.
Yeah, literally Cat on a Hot Tin Roof is about a gay guy who won't shag his wife. Literally what it's about. Obviously, they're not allowed to say that in the early
classic Michael
1900s.
Matt Dillon, Mickey Rourke, Christopher Reeve, Kurt Russell, Treat Williams, Sting, and Bruce Willis were all considered for this role.
Okay. Well, he is a soldier, I suppose. we'll get into
Yeah.
the characterization as we go through because I think it's quite interesting.
Linda Hamilton plays the iconic Sarah Connor, star of Terminator 2 and Dark Fate, Dante's Peak, Murder, She Wrote,
Nice.
Children of the Corn, Beauty and the Beast, 1987, A Sunday Horse, she was the Beauty, A Sunday Horse.
That's the TV show,
It
isn't
is,
it?
yeah.
That looks a little hokey, but apparently it's very good.
I remember it being on TV when I was younger,
Oh.
and I was just really scared by the makeup of the Beast.
Yeah, that's Ron Perlman, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Home by Christmas, A Sunday Horse, Skeletons in the Closet, Sex and Mrs. X, King Kong Lives, Black Moon Rising, and more. Now, she recently spoke about Sarah Connor and the idea of Sarah Connor being called an icon. And she says, and I quote, I truly feel like and felt like Sarah Connor is not an icon. She's a woman in hell. She makes some really bad choices. She's not a good mother. She's a good fighter. So you sort of try to pass the details and go, well, they respect her strength and her power. And I did create a warrior, but she's very imperfect. She's an imperfect person. So it was hard to sort of come to terms with all that and just go, okay, I can accept it. Because I've heard it now for so many years, people actually treat me like I saved the future. That's living in the time of gay Twitter, darling. That's what that is.
But that's what we stand. We stand imperfect
Well,
women.
she said, if you could see how utterly hapless I am during my life and my daily life. And she concluded, but it's pretty cute and I have no complaints. It's delightful. Honey, latch onto it.
I do question whether she's talking about sort of weirdos that sometimes take things too far, or just
the gays.
Yeah, let's be honest, because there is quite a difference. I mean, we love her and we think she's a very strong character, and like she says, with faults, but you know, we don't sexualize her.
No,
it's not about that. So
no,
I hope she doesn't get the, you know, can you sign my picture of you topless that I've printed off the internet, that kind of side of things.
Yeah, I hope not. I hope it's just the gays.
Yeah.
Michael B. It's just Michael Bean. She's just calling her up every day like, hey, you're an icon, darling. Jennifer Jason Leigh, Rosanna Arquette, Gina Davis, Lisa Langlois, and Deborah Winger were all considered for this role. Gina Davis would have been good.
Yeah, I think they all would have worked, actually. I do. Because she's, in this film in particular, she's a final girl.
Yeah.
So she has that strength, but she's into survival.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I don't necessarily think any actress could have played her in Judgment Day.
No. That had to be Linda Hamilton.
Yes. Yeah. And I do think, obviously, Linda Hamilton, fantastic actress, was very early in her career. I think by Terminator 2, I think she was a much better performance.
Yes.
Yeah. Not saying this one's bad. It's a great performance. But Terminator 2 is fantastic performance.
Yeah. Should have been nominated for an Oscar. We have Paul Winfield playing Ed Traxler. He was in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, Mars Attacks, The Serpent and the Rainbow, Murder, She Wrote, Dennis the Menace, the live-action film, Cliffhanger, Touched by an Angel, Vegas, City of Dreams, and more. And yes, I was partially a normal child. I did watch the Dennis the Menace live-action movie.
There you go.
So hey, that's him from Terminator. Yeah, he's great. He's one of those where it's like, I feel like he's always playing a detective. I feel like he's just going to be typecast as a detective.
Yeah, I think ultimately, in terms of the key components to the film, it's Sarah Connor, Carl Reese, and the Terminator. Everyone else is a little interchangeable. Not to as a disservice to their acting abilities, but the characters themselves are inconsequential to you know, the film itself. So he does a good performance, and I like Paul Winfield.
Yeah. Apart from I think that stands for all the characters. Apart from the psychiatrist, who I don't have in Hey I Know You.
Yeah.
But I thought it was always a funny running gag whenever he'd show up in when he shows up in Terminator 2 and Terminator 3. He's always that useless psychiatrist that's always a little cocky, but actually never gets the best end of things.
If I remember correctly, I think that's Earl Bowen. and he turns up he's in loads of
Yeah,
stuff.
so I think he was
9 to 5, Miracle Mile. He's almost kind of that smarmy comic relief.
Yeah, I think they
he has
literally.
one of those faces,
I think he was hired to play a psychiatrist in a Naked Gun film as well.
Oh yeah, 33 and a third, is it?
Yeah, so I think it just became a running joke of him, and he's great at it.
Yes.
But also, finally for me, Lance Henriksen as Vukovic. He was in Aliens, Alien 3, Alien vs Predator, Pumpkinhead, Hard Target, Quick and the Dead, Network, Dog Day Afternoon, Near Dark, previous podcast films, Scream 3, Hellraiser Hellworld, Piranha 2, and more. Lance Henriksen, he's just a genre icon, and he just shows up in everything. How many films are in his filmography?
Oh my god, 210.
Wow.
And that's not including any TV roles or anything like that. You know, so just films. Yeah. You know, 210. He's always good. It's you know, the cynical part of me is, he'll star in anything. And it's true. It very much looks like he would star in any old shit if you gave him the money. But I would assume, and I haven't watched all of these films, thankfully, and I don't think I ever will.
No.
But I can assure you that at least a few of these, he's probably the best part of it. So props to you, Lance Henriksen. Is he still with us?
He's still with us.
Still with us. Fantastic.
Should we talk about our first feature presentation?
Yes. A film we like to call The Terminator.
Yes.
They come from another time. A machine wrapped in flesh. A soldier from a distant war. Both after a woman who holds the key to the future. One wants to kill her. The other must protect her.
I'm here to help you. You've been targeted for termination.
The Terminator. Your future is in his hands. The Terminator. Rated R. The #1 movie in the USA is now playing everywhere.
So a cybernetic organism time travels from 2029 to 1984 Los Angeles. The cyborg is an assassin known as the Terminator, disguised as a man and programmed to hunt and kill a woman named Sarah Connor.
18-year-old
18-year-old
named Sarah Connor.
With all due respect to you, Linda Hamilton, no.
Love you, Linda, but come on.
I out of respect, I won't tell you how old she was.
Oh, no, I want to know. I was about to research it. How old was she?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well,
out of respect.
That's fine.
I chose not to.
We could look like fools. Imagine if she's actually 18.
I don't think she was.
I mean, again, you know, Jamie Lee Curtis, love her, but she's actually the age she's supposed to be in Halloween.
Yeah.
And she looks a little older.
I think the idea is that she's meant to be a bit dowdy in Halloween, Jamie Lee Curtis, so she does look a bit older. But I do feel like Linda Hamilton is meant to be a fresh, go-getting 18-year-old.
She was 28 years old.
Oh, and she didn't look 28. So props to you, Linda Hamilton. You were somewhere in the middle. So
what do you think to her outfit?
Good on you.
That
one?
Pink tie-dye. And the jeans.
She loves that pinky, peachy colour.
Yeah.
Doesn't she?
It's iconic,
She's a massive fan of that peachy colour. She wears it in cardigan, she wears it tie-dye, in a shirt. Yeah.
Fashion icon.
The hair's always big as well.
Oh, the hair. Her. Oh my god. The stunt doubles when they get to wear that wig. What a day they would have had.
So, separate to the Terminator, going after our Sarah Connor, a human soldier named Carl Reese also time travels from 2029, intent on stopping the Terminator. So we get a nice little opening written prologue to let us all know, to spill the tea for us. So the machines rose from the ashes of the nuclear fire. Their war to exterminate mankind had raged for decades, but the final battle would not be fought in the future. It would be fought here, in our present, tonight.
Well, that hits hard in 2024. With all the AI going about.
Oh, yeah. That's true, actually. We need, maybe that's...
We need a Linda Hamilton. That's Kate Middleton.
Kate Middleton. We got Kate Middleton instead. Wherever the fuck she's gone. So, The Terminator appears in a surge of electricity with his Schwarzenegger on full display
Yes.
before killing and stealing the clothes of a trio of punk stereotypes.
We've all done it.
We've all done what?
No, carry on, and then I'll get to
Including Bill Paxton.
Yes, iconic Bill Paxton.
This makes him the only person to be killed by Terminator, Predator, because he was in Predator 2, and Xenomorph.
Yeah.
So good on you, Bill Paxton. Love Bill Paxton.
It's very amusing seeing him as a punk.
Yeah.
We've all done it.
All done what?
We've all paused it. To see...
Wait, when did you watch this film on VHS, Gary?
6 years old. There we go. There's my sexual awakening. There we are. Isn't it a joke in Scream? Is it Scream?
No, Scream
That's Tom
is
Cruise,
All the
isn't
Right
it?
Moves.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise.
A film made... I swear a film made a joke about it. But everyone's done it. We've all seen what it looks like. We've all seen it flopping about.
It does flop about. Good on you. I think the point is, obviously he's casting quite a bit of shadow. So it's very dark. So I don't think you're meant to see it quite like that. And I'm assuming that in the 80s on a film screen, you know, if we watched it at Odeon now, I don't think we would be able to see any of the parts.
We watched it at Odeon.
The Austrian sausage.
We watched it at Odeon, and I swear I saw it.
Well, yeah, I suppose
if you're looking out for it,
I was going to say, you've probably memorised it. But I'm assuming that with 4K and technology, that it's easier to see.
Yes.
Okay.
Great death scene. Yeah.
Yeah, it gets punched all the way through.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
It's fisted
by a naked man. No. Now you've definitely paused on those kind of films, haven't you, Gary?
No comment. But yes, Punk gets his heart ripped out. Bill Paxton's killed, and he steals some clothes.
He does.
Nice night for a walk, eh? Washing day tomorrow. Nothing clean, right?
Carl Reese appears in 1984 in similar fashion, but we don't get to see Michael's Bean, as he immediately steals the trousers of a homeless man.
He does. And when you see a bit of his crack, that's a stuntman.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Didn't we see his ass in The Fan?
We might have seen his ass in The Fan.
Maybe. Oh, we did. I was...
did you know there was...
I think I'm getting my evil twinks mixed up.
There's a... in the original treatment by James Cameron, there was a detail that Terminator had to keep eating in order for his human flesh to survive. So he just had to keep eating random things. And there was a scene where he'd eat a candy bar wrapper and all.
Yeah, I don't think...
Glad that was cut.
Yeah, that's not quite entertaining, is it? The homeless man says, "That son of a bitch took my pants." And Carl is chased by the police and manages to get a gun from one of them. So he's a good soldier. So the Terminator, on the other hand, manages to get a shit ton of guns by shooting Dick Miller at the gun store. Yeah. Poor Dick Miller should not have left the ammo on the counter.
No.
And I feel like this is definitely a commentary on gun control.
Yeah.
Like, dickhead, why would you hand someone you don't know a gun with the ammo right next to it?
Mm-hmm. One of the parallels in these two films.
Absolutely.
Poor Sarah.
Another parallel is that our final girl is a waitress.
She is.
Not in a cocktail bar when I met you. But I'd like to think that in The Guest she's a better waitress than Sarah Connor. Sarah Connor, she's getting the orders wrong.
She is.
She's spilling drinks, and kids are putting ice cream in her pocket.
Yeah.
So
she didn't just spill drinks. She spills a plate of burly beef.
Oh, is it burly beef? Oh, I thought it was a drink. Burly beef.
I don't know what burly beef is, but...
Oh, well, we saw burly beef earlier in the film.
Well, yes, we did.
So, after searching for addresses in a telephone directory, the Terminator systematically kills women named Sarah Connor. In what is a very creepy scene. Like, this is straight from a horror film.
Yeah.
He knocks on the door of one Sarah Connor, and it's... I'm going to do it in the Scream 2 way, but it's not as comical as this sounds. And she sort of answers the door, and it's on the latch. And he says, "Sarah Connor." She says, yes. And then he kicks the door in and then shoots her.
Yeah.
In her own home and then fucks off.
Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. The idea, again, when you watch as a kid, a lot of it's lost on you. It's just a cool action horror film. But when you think about it as an adult, you think about the premise. Like, the premise as a whole, him going to murder her to stop her having a child. Fucking great premise.
Yeah.
But also the idea of him going around and only killing women named Sarah Connor.
Sarah Connor.
So creepy. It's such a good idea. For a film.
Yeah. Do you think anyone's called Sarah Connor now?
Probably.
Yeah. So this hits the news and becomes a bit of a joke at Sarah's work. Nancy, who is played by Sean Sheps.
Yeah.
Now, Sean Sheps, I recognise, because it's my favourite TV show ever, as Blanche's daughter in The Golden Girls, in that episode that has not aged very well, where basically every joke is making fun of Blanche's daughter's weight. But she was in that, so she's iconic because of that. She's also iconic for her line delivery of "You're dead, honey."
It is amazing.
So good. It's not on IMDb quotes.
That's so strange.
There's so many quotes on IMDb. I thought this was more revered than it was.
Yeah.
I thought this was like really iconic. Obviously, you have the two iconic lines. I thought this was up there with them, but "You're dead, honey." Unfortunately not. So whilst getting ready for a big night out in her Jetsons t-shirt, Sarah gets a call intended for her roommate, Ginger. And I'm actually going to read it out to you. It's a bit saucy, so don't record this. First, I'm going to rip the buttons off your blouse one by one, then run my tongue down your neck to your bare, gleaming breasts, and then slowly pull your jeans off inch by inch and lick your belly in circles further and further down, and then pull your panties off with my teeth. Sarah then says, "Who's this?" And he realizes, who's this? Isn't he Matt or something? I don't know.
Matt, yeah.
Matt. And he realizes that he's not talking to Ginger. So Sarah goes and gets Ginger. Ginger comes to the phone, and he starts the monologue over again.
Okay, if these people are all the same age, why the fuck is an 18-year-old talking like this?
Yeah,
like,
that is true.
Are you a fucking erotic novelist?
It's just, it's like a Barbara Cartland novel. Or like, no, who's Jackie Collins?
Yeah.
So Sarah's date, Stan Morsky, voiced by James Cameron himself, leaves a voicemail telling her he can't make it. So she changes out of her dress and peach-coloured cardigan combo and decides to take herself out to dinner and to the movies instead. I was a little confused by this because I thought they were all going out together.
No.
But they're not. Because I thought Ginger was getting ready, Sarah was getting ready, and the fellas were going to pick them up for a double date and a little nice night out on the town. So I'm assuming Sarah just didn't want a third wheel.
Yeah.
Which is convenient for Ginger and her boyfriend because of what happens.
It's a good job he wore his best wife fronts.
Yes. So she takes herself out for dinner, and at the restaurant she sees the news about the second Sarah Connor murder and notices Reese following her, and she ducks into a nightclub to call the police, but the line is busy. In turn, the police are trying to call her at the apartment, but Ginger is too busy getting some. So this is why, conveniently for them, she didn't want to tag along. And she's listening to music on her Walkman while she's getting a good seeing to. Which I don't know if that's rude or she's trying to get into a good rhythm.
Yeah.
So that was to her boyfriend's benefit.
I just can't believe this entire franchise takes place. Everything that happens, because this could have been solved, they could have found her, put her into protection, maybe found a way to fight him off. Kyle Reese maybe could have spoke to the police a little calmer. If Ginger answered that fucking call. The rest of this franchise happens because of this fucking awkward sex scene with a Walkman.
That's true. The Terminator turns up and kills Ginger and her boyfriend. But after Sarah leaves a message on the answering machine, he now knows her location and turns up at the nightclub.
Where is she?
Is something noir, isn't it?
She is at Tech Noir, a film genre which James Cameron coined himself in describing what category this film falls under after dismissing the notions that it was a mere horror or slasher film. Tech Noir films are like Blade Runner, and this film itself is obviously an example.
I suppose Carl Reese is in some way like a detective.
Yeah.
A bit of Dick Tracy.
Yeah, they combine the old-style grittiness of noir films with the futuristic elements of a sci-fi thriller, and Cameron himself built this club specifically for the film and had to turn away local club goers who thought it was a real nightclub. It still exists now, but it's a jewellery store. He built a nightclub on that small budget. And, oh, by the way, what do you have to say about the dancers and the songs playing?
It's very, very, very 80s.
Yeah.
I feel like we should have had a Frankie Goes to Hollywood music video break. Mm-hmm. It's giving that sort of energy. Yeah. I'm assuming... It's weird, because the woman on the door and the bouncer are giving me... BDSM energy, but then everyone sort of dancing is giving me Saved by the Bell, so it's very, very 80s, incredibly 80s.
The big song when he walks up to her is "Burning in the Third Degree" by Tani Kane and the Triangles.
Nice.
And it's a banger.
So Reese manages to save our Sarah, and the pair steal a car and escape with the Terminator in hot pursuit. So this is a great scene.
It is.
When the Terminator turns up, Sarah doesn't know she thinks that Carl Reese is after her.
Yeah.
And then this big burly Austrian bloke turns up and tries to shoot her with the big red sort of mark on her forehead. And then Carl Reese saves the day. He says... very famously, "Come with me if you want to live."
Yes.
And
that's a twist. That is a twist. If back in 1984, if you didn't know anything about this film, you would think both of these men are gonna try and kill her.
Yeah, because they don't know who
he is.
Yeah,
we don't know who he is. We don't know what he's doing. We know he had his little flashback dream to the war. So he just could be this weird soldier who has mental health struggles and he's trying to kill her. It's 1984. That's not beyond the realms of possibility in the film. So when they both corner her in that club, it's kind of like, oh fuck, is she done for? If you didn't know what was going on, so that "Come with me if you want to live" is a great line of dialogue. Cause it's just such a good twist. Like, oh, okay, no, he's the hero.
Yeah, and later on, she does come with him.
But that she does. Yes.
So As they hide in a parking lot, Reese explains to Sarah that an artificially intelligent defense network known as Skynet, created by Cyberdyne Systems, will become self-aware in the near future and trigger a global nuclear war to exterminate the human species. Sarah initially struggles to believe him, quite rightly so, but comes around after Reese says the same thing in a slightly angrier tone. And... for many reasons, this world is fortunate that Reese is a conventionally attractive guy. Because if he wasn't, Sarah would not have believed a single word he said. If he turned up, with all due respect, and looked like Mr. Bean, the world would have been done for.
Yeah, it's true.
But luckily, what Lauren Bacall didn't want, Linda Hamilton wanted. Yeah. So, yes, very lucky. Reese continues to tell our Sarah that her future son, John Connor, John, will rally the survivors and lead a successful resistance. Rally, not rail. And lead a successful resistance movement against Skynet and its army of machines. On the verge of the Resistance's victory, Skynet sends the Terminator back in time to kill Sarah and prevent John from being born. The Terminator is an efficient and relentless killing machine with a perfect voice-mimicking ability and a durable metal endoskeleton covered by living tissue that disguises it as a human. He says it sweats like a human, has bad breath like a human, and a big floppy cock like a human too.
It's true.
Police... Very mature. Police apprehend Reese and Sarah after another encounter with the Terminator. The Terminator, now missing his eyebrows, which is camp. He looks like he's preparing for Drag Race. He's shaved his eyebrows to make it easier to paint them on. He takes some time away to repair some damage to his arm, and for the film to demonstrate some impressive special effects too.
Yes.
He then takes out a fake eye to reveal a red camera-like lens in his eye. Iconic image. These effects haven't aged as well.
They haven't.
They look a little plasticine-y.
Yeah, it's very clearly not Arnie that we're looking at. It's very clearly his arm with a dummy.
Yeah, and it's just, but his face as well.
Yeah.
And it's, for the budget, it's fantastic.
Yes.
For the action, for the effects, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
We're still looking at what we're here on the 40th anniversary of the film. So they haven't aged as well.
No.
And especially on a lower budget. But it's Stan Winston, isn't it? Who is
Stan Winston.
Always fantastic.
It could have been Rob Bottin, but he had just been offered the thing and he couldn't do both films. So then, Cameron approached Dick Smith, but he decided it wasn't well suited for him. But he suggested Stan Winston, who was on a robot designing streak with the Tin Man from The Wiz.
Oh.
And the robot makeups for Heartbeeps, which led to both an Academy Award nomination and signing Mr. Roboto for the rock band Styx.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, their professional partnership, him and James Cameron, have lasted 25 years. Well, it spanned 25 years.
Oh, nice. Nice. Unfortunately for Reese, his rugged handsomeness has less of an effect on the police, who are struggling to believe his rather far-fetched story.
Of course they're not believing it.
Of course they're not believing it. And then they're kind of like... They're kind of being kind to Sarah to a certain degree, but also kind of like, I can't believe you believe this, Joker. Fortunately for Reese and Sarah, though, a much cooler looking Terminator then attacks the police station. I.e., he's changed into a leather jacket with sunglasses, the iconic image. He's not dressed like... yeah. He kills the police officers whilst hunting for Sarah, which in turn allows Reese and Sarah to escape. He enters the police station. The guy's there on the desk, and he says, I need to see Sarah Connor. The guy's like, no, don't know who you are. Piss off, mate.
Yeah.
Pull the other one. And he says, iconically, I'll be back.
Yes.
And he pisses off and then comes back driving a car through the front of the police station.
Yeah. That line has been quoted countless times now. It is such a big part of pop culture. That and Hasta la Vista Baby in the sequel.
It's the delivery. It's the strong Austrian accent. And we'll get to that later. But it's the strong Austrian accent that I think makes it iconic. Yeah. And just, it's the delivery. Because it's really a throwaway line. Yeah. To be fair, it's like, I'll be back. Okay. You know? And he was. But it's so quotable. I'll be back. Can you do it?
I'll be back.
Thank you. So, Reese and Sarah, they steal another car and take refuge in a motel where they assemble several pipe bombs and plan their next move. Reese admits that he has adored Sarah since he saw her in a photograph John gave him that he travelled through time out of love for her. Reciprocating his feelings, Sarah kisses him and they have sex, conceiving John. Okay, a lot to unpack here. So strap in.
My favourite part was, I volunteered. It was a chance to meet the legend, Sarah Connor. Yes.
So, number one, again, very fortunate that Reese is a good-looking dude.
Yes.
Also, imagine having to turn him down because you weren't sure if your mum would fuck him or not. Imagine like I volunteer like no, I don't think my mum would fuck you. But actually Reese says that the photo was randomly given to him by John. So John maybe selected him. Like, who is my mum most likely to shag? Also, we're praising Stan Winston. Can we also praise the hair and makeup team? Because Linda Hamilton's hair is still so big. Considering everything that's happened to her so far, there's still a lot of volume in that. So props to you. Can we also talk about the sex scene itself?
Yeah.
It's not the best.
It's so 80s.
It feels a little, I'm not going to lie, it feels a little cheap.
It does.
For a bit of TNA. I feel like we could have just, obviously it's important to the plot that they have sexual intercourse. But it's lifeless.
It is.
It's not good. And ultimately James Cameron can direct the hell out of an action sequence. Yeah. But I'm glad he never decided to make an erotic thriller. I tell you. I'm assuming there's a sex scene in Titanic, but I think Titanic's...
In the car, yeah.
Yeah, but that's different. It's not... It's a 12, isn't it? Titanic.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit steamy.
I think... I swear I've seen the clip where the hand goes on the door. It's in the music video, isn't it? Yeah, that's where I've seen it.
But it's kind of similar in this, though. The hands.
It is. Yeah, well, the hands on the sheets, gripping the sheets. And you know when he's finished because he lets go of the sheets.
Yes. Yeah, I just... Thank you, James Cameron, for never doing a scene like this. As far as I know, if you have, then I haven't had to watch it because it's not great, girls. It's not great. So we get another flash forward, and it shows another Terminator shooting up the place, and Reese's photo of Sarah burning. Yeah. So this is a different Terminator, so it doesn't look like Arnold. No. But all the Terminators are rather muscly guys, but they were created to be undetected. So would no one question where they've been working out? Like, I'm assuming that
they build them that way. Like, they weren't children. They were built. They were built to look like that. Like...
Yeah, but they were built to. Yeah, but the whole thing is that Reese says earlier in the film, it wasn't until he pulled out the gun that I knew it was him. Yeah, because they're meant to blend in. Yeah, so I'm assuming that in a desolate future, the gyms would be closed and the protein shakes would be severely rationed. So why all these big muscly men going around? Also, would they all have thick Austrian accents like Arnie's version? Would it not be a bit suspicious when everyone else has an American accent? Yeah. And this big muscly Austrian dude is going around?
I think that's why we have Robert Patrick in the sequel, to try and remove that sort of idea.
Yeah, he's not suspicious at all. So, I mean, obviously, it's led to a very iconic film, a fantastic film, and a fantastic sequel and iconic series, whatever. But I did find it quite hilarious. It's like, obviously John Travolta would be less detectable, so I assume that's why he was up for it as well. So the Terminator locates Sarah by intercepting a call intended for her mother. The Terminator mimics her mother's voice, and it's rather camp. It
is a bit camp, yes. She's dead in the background. Her legs are on the floor. It's
Arnie with an older woman's voice. Yes. She and Reese escape the motel in a pickup while it pursues them on a motorcycle. While the Terminator pursues them on a motorcycle, and then in a tank truck. So Reese is badly wounded by gunfire during this, but manages to slide a pipe bomb into the tanker's hose tube whilst the Terminator is trying to run Sarah down in the street, causing a giant explosion that burns all the flesh from the Terminator's endoskeleton. So this is the end of Arnie. Yeah. We don't see Arnie now. No. He's been melted. And we get this really cool looking endoskeleton. Yeah.
And it's a great chase scene up until that point as well.
When she's like running through this suburban street.
Yeah. With this big truck after her. Yeah. This is when she was like, okay, no. I have to now. I have to serve Kern. I have to save the day.
But this is
who I
Final
am.
Girl.
This is
mode.
Final Girl mode. She's like, okay, Michael Biehn is no use to me now.
Yeah.
It is just me. I'm gonna fucking save the day. And it's just the whole idea that after this truck explosion, he still fucking rises. He's unstoppable, and it is terrifying. It's so good.
Yeah, and the endoskeleton looks absolutely
Yeah.
fantastic. Especially on a low budget, it looks great. So yeah, fantastic scene. Great action scene, big
Yeah.
explosion, exactly what you expect, exactly what you want
Yeah.
from an action set piece.
Yeah.
So the Terminator pursues them into a factory where Reese activates machinery to confuse it. He jams his final pipe bomb into its midsection, blowing it apart, but killing Reese
Yes.
in the process. So its still functional torso grabs Sarah,
Still going.
but she breaks free and lures it into a hydraulic press, crushing and finally destroying it. This is pure horror film Final Girl.
Yeah.
The man who's been helping her is now dead. She needs to save herself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, stereotype. She's a weak little girl, so she has to use her brains to do it. But this is a fucking Terminator, so she has to use her brains to save herself, and she does. She lures him, and
Well, Michael Biehn had sex and died.
that's true. Yeah,
It's a horror film.
yeah, that's true. So she uses her brain to save herself, and she says, "You're terminated, fucker." Months later, Sarah, visibly pregnant with John, travels through Mexico, recording audio tapes to pass on to him. She talks about whether to tell John about Reese being his father, and says, "Maybe it'll be enough if you know that, in the few hours we had together, we loved a lifetime's worth." We're all sex positive here, huh?
Yeah.
You don't have to lie to us. You saw what you liked. You wanted a bit of dick. You got a bit. Good for you.
It's just a bonus that you happen to save mankind.
No shame in your game. You don't have to tell us that you lived a lifetime.
No.
You didn't know him very long, but that's your choice. At a gas station, a boy takes a Polaroid picture of her, and she buys it. It's the exact photograph that John will one day give to Reese. The gas station owner comments that there is a storm coming, and Sarah replies that she knows, alluding to humanity's future war against Skynet.
That's not what he says, is it? What does he say?
He says, "Honey, you've got a big storm coming." The film ends as Sarah drives off towards the approaching storm.
As one of the greatest scores of all time plays.
The approaching storm being Storm from the X-Men. Oh,
Yes.
it's an MCU film. Oh.
Thank you. Yes, that is the Terminator.
That is the Terminator.
The score. Oh my god. Brad Fidel.
So good. And I think sometimes it gets missed on the podcast scores and soundtracks. Because it's hard to say or to describe, really. But this, phenomenal. I love it. Up there with the best of John Carpenter, in terms of that kind of, soundtrack, futuristic-y sounding, you know what I mean, synthy. Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic. One of the greatest films ever made. A film that I think is a genre staple.
Yeah.
It's just...
I mean, when people say sci-fi films, the Terminator,
Yeah.
whichever incarnation, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator.
Yeah.
That's what people think of.
Absolutely.
And yeah, okay, it's been 40 years, but fundamentally it's not that dated.
No.
Really,
No.
there's certain aspects very 80s at times, but it was made in the 80s. What can you do?
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that adds to the charm of it, personally.
Yes.
Ratings, I give it 10 seedy motel quickies to save the future of the human race out of 10.
I gave it 10 thick Austrian
Cocks.
accents out of 10.
Masterpiece, trash, basic, or a Campbell bunch of fun. It's a masterpiece.
It's a masterpiece.
It's available on DVD, Blu-ray, and video on demand. It's criminal that it's not on 4K yet. Like, it's 40th anniversary, guys. Come on, release it on 4K.
But isn't Judgment Day on?
It's on 4K, but no one likes the transfer. Apparently, it looks shit.
Oh no!
And
so we need to do a petition.
Yeah.
Arnie's dong in 4K, please.
Yeah. There'll be no if you enjoyed this, check out, because of course these episodes are if you enjoyed this, check out. So with that being said, if you enjoyed the Terminator, check out The Guest in 2014. This is directed by Adam Wingard, who did the Tape 56 segment in VHS, Phase 1 clinical trial segment in VHS 2, A Horrible Way to Die, You're Next, Blair Witch, Death Note, Godzilla vs. Kong, the upcoming Godzilla and Kong New Empire, and more. So yeah, we really went on to a big career after just being a little indie filmmaker. Yeah. Good for him.
The Guest, is this considered a small film?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's written by Simon Barrett, who also did Your Next, Tape 56 in VHS, and Tape 49 in VHS 2. He wrote and directed The Empty Wake in VHS 94, which was a great segment. He wrote Seance, Blair Witch, Frankenfish, Red Sands, Dead Birds, and more. His original script was much more serious revenge story, which involved soldier returning from war and suffering from PTSD, and him doing complicated revenge plan against some family. The script was actually never finished because Barrett gave up on it, but then Adam Wingard came up with the idea for what eventually turned into be The Guest, and Barrett used some parts of the old script for this film.
Nice.
And according to Adam Wingard, the original rough cut of this film was over 20 minutes longer than the final theatrical cut. After this version screens with test audience, it was cut down to the runtime that we see it now. And after another test screening, the audience was confused at the sudden arrival of Major Richard Carver and his team at the Peterson home, which is why some scenes with Carver at KPG headquarters were added in to the final cut of the film. Some of the scenes which were cut down or deleted completely after test screenings are scenes which explain what exactly David is, what happened to him, why he does some of the things he does in the film, and more details and information about the KPG program that he was involved in. These scenes were cut because the test audience felt that all of it was just too much information, and Wingard and Barrett admitted they hated explaining David's character and his background because they always wanted to leave much of the information about him ambiguous, which is why they were glad that those scenes were disliked by test audiences and had to be cut out of the film. Yeah, I think the minimal explanation in this film works really well.
Yeah, do you?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Do you?
No.
Okay. It's made on a budget.
Yeah, let me explain this. I could have done with a little more explanation.
Yeah.
I feel like we could have gotten maybe a little bit of a political commentary. You know, I think that would have been nice.
I think there is one.
I think there is, but I think, you know, and I, you know, I feel like I'm a relatively clever person.
Yes.
But I don't want to be slapped around the face with it. But I think I could have done with just a little more sort of explanation as to what was going on to a certain degree.
Yeah.
You don't hear me say this very often, but I could have done with 5 minutes longer on the film.
It's made on a budget of $5 million and it made $2.7 million worldwide.
Ooh. Now, if I'm remembering correctly, Your Next was before this.
It was.
And Your Next was a cool hit.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm assuming this was meant to be another cool hit,
I think
but
so.
it didn't quite do as well.
No.
That's unfortunate.
But it is a cult film now, though.
Yes.
Cool
yeah.
audience. Should we talk about who's in it?
Yes, in a section we like to call Hey, I Know You.
So Dan Stevens plays David Collins, cast deliberately as a left field choice. English actor who had to beat a lot of guys off to get this role.
Explain yourself.
He's on British morning TV, daytime TV, where he was asked how many guys he had to beat off to get this role. English actor Dan Stevens easily fit the bill, being decidedly likable and best known to American audiences for his appearance in the highbrow British soap Downton Abbey, where according to IMDb he was the chubby one.
He was not chubby in Downton Abbey. I don't know who wrote that. Whoever wrote that, get a hold of yourself. how if he was chubby in Downton Abbey, then I'm not even gonna say it. I must be massive. I'm Brendan Fraser in The Whale. They're so rude and not even accurate at all.
No. Yeah, Downton Abbey. He was in Beauty and the Beast, Eurovision Song Contest, The Story of Fire Saga, Call of the Wild, the Harrison Ford CGI dog film, Vamps, Colossal, Night in the Museum, Secret of the Tomb, and more. I think he is so good in this. He's just so charismatic, and he's a threatening killer because, again, kind of like Michael Biehn in the Terminator, because he's a conventionally attractive. Everyone fancies him. He wouldn't do anything wrong. He wouldn't kill anyone.
Yeah, he literally, well, almost gets away with murder.
Yeah,
because he's a conventionally attractive guy.
Yeah.
There's someone in particular who doesn't care that he's a murderer because he's a conventionally attractive guy. Yeah, I think Dan Stevens does a great job. I think maybe Dan Stevens wasn't a big enough name to carry the film.
No.
And I think, obviously, TV and film are very different mediums. And yes, Downton Abbey was a big success in the UK and America. But Downton Abbey, from what I remember, was always an ensemble show. So I think Dan Stevens, it was a risky choice, and I don't think it paid off. Not because he did a bad job, but because, I mean, I'm looking at the poster now, and I can see he is the poster. It's him. Yeah. I think maybe a bigger name would have helped.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like you said, it didn't make money.
Yeah. I don't know who the other guys were that you had to beat off for the role. But,
no.
Who would you have cast?
That's a difficult one.
I mean, it's easy, actually. Do
Really?
you remember Mission Impossible Fallout?
Yes.
Do you remember Henry Cavill in that film?
I do.
He was given strong Dan Stevens and the guest energy in that film.
Oh, yeah. Henry Cavill would have been...
I mean, he pretty much played that role. So...
It's true.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Star of Hellraiser Hellworld. Micah Monroe plays Anna Peterson, star of It Follows, Watcher, The Fifth Wave, Independence Day Resurgence, The Bling Ring, Honey Boy, Villains, God is a Bullet, Greta, and more. I love Micah Monroe. She is in the Oz Perkins film coming out this year that I can't remember the name of. But I'm very excited for that film. And I always thought, because back when this was released and It Follows was released, and I was so excited about her, I thought, oh my God, she's going to be the next big screen queen. And she kind of just disappeared from horror for a while until Watcher, and she is phenomenal in Watcher.
I think she's making herself a nice little career as sort of an indie film darling.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see her get bigger roles and more recognition, because I do think she's fantastic. I mean, she was phenomenal in It Follows.
Yeah.
And she was great in this as well.
Yeah. I think Watcher is her best role. That was...
Yeah, of course.
Really great performance.
Yeah.
We have Brendan Mayer as Luke Peterson. He was in The OA, Colour Out of Space, Mr. Young, The List, The Unheard, The Friendship Game, Only Humans, Leap for Your Life, Spooky Buddies, and more. He kind of... Brendan Mayer...
Spooky Buddies?
Yes.
Is that the Halloween version of Air Buddies? Yes.
Brendan Mayer is one of those guys that he kind of looks like... You were born to play the younger teen brother of the final girl in a slasher
It's
film.
true. It's true.
He's got that face, got that hair,
He
that
has.
2014 hair.
Definitely.
Sheila Kelly plays Laura Peterson. She was in One Fine Day, Singles, Matchstick Men, Soap Dish. Do you remember her in Soap Dish?
I don't. I'm not going to lie. I don't.
Gossip Girl, Nurse Betty, Dancing at the Blue Iguana, The Secretary, A Passion to Kill, yes, erotic thrillers, Breaking In, and more. I like her in this film, if the intention was for it to be funny that she's such a fucking idiot.
Yes.
Like, it's because she really plays it up. She really plays it up. Like, the decisions she makes in this film are bizarre. Now, you could say, okay, she's recently lost her son. Fair enough. But, oh my God, she is dignitized.
I think there was a sort of, her character couldn't decide if she wanted to have David is a surrogate mother,
Mm.
and not him being a surrogate,
Yeah.
you know, a surrogate son, should I say? Excuse me. Or she wanted to shag him.
Yeah.
She was stuck
Somewhere in the middle.
somewhere in the middle.
We have Lance Reddick playing Major Richard Carver. He was in the John Wick films, White House Down, One Night in Miami, Godzilla vs. Kong, the Old Boy remake, which is apparently terrible, by the way.
Yeah, Spike Lee as well.
We might have to do that one day for a podcast, original list remake. Angel Has Fallen, The Domestics, and more. Major Richard Carver. I feel like he's got the right level of ham for his role. He brought just the right amount of ham in his packed lunch for his role, I find.
Yeah.
I feel like he's not playing it completely straight.
No.
I feel like he's just that slight bit over the top, and it's fun. It's a fun film.
Mm.
And Joel David Moore plays Craig. He was in Avatar 1 and 2, so also worked with James Cameron. Dodgeball, Youth in Oregon, Hatchet, Shark Night 3D. He was Pete in Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Don't remember.
CBGB. He played Joey Ramone in CBGB.
Oh, okay.
Gone, Julia X, The Hottie and the Naughty,
Oh.
and more.
Okay. The Hottie and the Naughty.
Yeah.
Potentially a future podcast film.
Yeah.
Just Leland Orser,
Mm-hmm.
who played the father, I'm the father, Mr. Peterson. Mr. Peterson. Of course. He was in Seven,
Mm-hmm.
Saving Private Ryan, Amsterdam, Independence Day, Taken, Alien Resurrection, should I say? Daredevil.
Mm-hmm.
So he absolutely had a recognizable face.
Yes.
He's one of those people that I've seen him in something.
Yeah.
And yeah. He's a very distinct character actor
Yes,
kind of
definitely.
face. So I think I liked his performance.
So let's talk about our second feature presentation.
I'll take all your guns.
I'll cut you a deal.
No, I'm going to kill you. Mrs. Peterson, I knew your son. I was with him when he died. He asked for me to check on you and your whole family.
Would you like to come inside?
Thank you, ma'am.
I called the army base that David's from. They told me he doesn't exist. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't been here.
Mrs. Peterson, it's no problem.
Adam Wingard actually wanted to start this film with the Canon Film Studio logo.
Oh.
But it doesn't have a cave, so I don't know if that could be done. I think with the intention to have the Canon logos there, it's very clear from the get-go that Adam Wingard wanted to create a tribute here to his favourite films, and that's also evident when we get the title card, which is in the same colour and same font as the Exorcist title card.
Yes. My big thing about this film, and you're going to probably get sick of hearing me say it, is that it probably should have just been set in the 80s.
It should have been set in the 80s, yes.
I would have just loved if it was set in the 80s.
Yeah.
I feel like it would have added to a bit of a camp value. It would have just been a fun action film. And then I wouldn't have felt the need to have the explanation.
Mm-hmm.
It could have just been a little throwaway thing, a tribute to B-movies.
Yeah. But even like when we... one of the first images we've seen in the films of a Halloween decoration on a farm, it is the Halloween decoration from Halloween 4.
Yes.
And that was also that scene in Halloween 4 is on a farm, and it's kind of like, okay, we know what we're getting here.
Yeah, and I love when filmmakers do that, because I feel like if we ever made a film, we would absolutely do that.
Yeah.
We would all throw Easter eggs of our favourite films into it, you know? And I like that.
Yeah.
And I wish maybe that part of it was maybe taken a little further.
Yeah. I mean, the score also, Steve Moore composed the score for this film, which deserves a shout out because it's so good.
It is really, really good.
He used the same type of synthesizers that John Carpenter and Alan Howarth used when composing Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. And you can tell it's so fucking good.
Yeah.
Spencer and Laura Peterson, with their children Luke and Anna, are coping with the loss of their eldest son Caleb to the war in Afghanistan. They're visited by David Collins, a former US Army sergeant, who claims he was Caleb's best friend. He tells the family he wanted to visit them as a way to help Caleb take care of them. polite and friendly, conventionally attractive, and Laura invites him to stay as long as he wishes. This first scene with him and Laura is kind of like, this could have been an erotic thriller. Like,
I'm here to fix your plumbing.
Yeah. It's just, she's so fast too. And again, I get it. Her son died in the army very recently, so it does make sense to a certain point that she's so vulnerable. But then he makes his way through the family like he's in Japanese Wife Next Door.
Oh my god. If ever there was a niche reference.
For modern audiences, Saltburn.
Saltburn.
Spencer, the father, is understandably suspicious of this random guy that Laura has agreed to let stay in his house, but still goes along with it. And David hears of Spencer's troubles at work, and he sees Luke return home with a bruise on his face caused by the 40-year-old bullies at school.
They're like double his age. They look like they're literally double his age.
I think it's the fact that he actually cast a kid to play Luke, and the other ones are clearly older because of Well, actually, no, I don't know why they had to cast older for the other ones, but it's very American high school kids looking so old. Whilst hearing about Spencer's work troubles, Dan Stevens, who I almost called Dan Stevens, David, should we say?
David.
He tells him he's planning on getting a bus to Florida the day after to look for some construction work, much like Roddy Piper in They Live. But Spencer convinces him to stay longer. And now it's kind of like, okay, he's manipulating everyone now. It's like he's the nice guy. He's so nice, so kind, and he gets on well with everyone. But Anna's a little, who is this guy? What the fuck's going on? What are you doing?
Yeah, to
a certain extent.
To a certain extent.
She's the least drawn in by him at this point.
Yes.
The next day, David and Luke follow the bullies to a bar, and I always forget how fast this happens in the film. The pacing in this film is exquisite. It's never a boring moment. It keeps going and going and going and going. David and Luke follow the bullies to a bar, where David buys himself a fireball shot, a Coke for Luke, blowjob shots for the lady bullies, and cosmopolitans for the male bullies.
They're not Carrie Bradshaw and the girlies. So they do take offense to it.
Oh, I'd be so happy. I'd be like, oh my god, thanks, girly.
Oh my god, if anyone bought me a cosmopolitan, I love a Cosmo.
Could you imagine if that's how to see him went, oh my god, thank you.
Yeah, could you imagine?
I love a Cosmo. Who are you? What is your Sex and the City character? I am absolutely a Carrie. How did you know?
Yeah.
Oh
no, you're a Charlotte.
I was referring to the characters.
Oh, okay.
I am a Samantha, obviously.
You are not a Samantha.
Not anymore.
You are a Charlotte.
And you are a Miranda Shea Diaz era. That's not true.
And you are continuing this podcast by yourself. Take that back now.
In other news, Shea Diaz is gone.
Yeah, fuck.
We support non-binary characters on this podcast. Sadly, we never have any to talk about in any of these films because Hollywood. But so fucking glad Shea Diaz is gone.
Yeah.
It's not even so much that Shea Diaz is non-binary. It's the fact that they were so badly written. Ugh. And I'm sure the actor playing Shea Diaz is a fantastic actor elsewhere.
Oh, Sarah Ramirez. Love them.
But, oh my god, what a fucking awful character. So, cannot wait for Just Like That Season 3.
They can't all be winners, unfortunately.
One of the bullies throws his Cosmo in David's face.
I'd love that.
Has Carrie Bradshaw ever thrown a Cosmo in someone's face?
No, but
That's
Sarah, Samantha, quite famously threw a drink in Richard's face.
Yeah.
Do you remember what she said?
No.
Dirty martini.
Yes.
Dirty bastard.
That's not said in this film. Instead, David throws his fireball in the bully's face and proceeds to beat them up. And that is more that I felt that more than the stomping on the foot. Like that must have stung.
Yeah, isn't it like Tabasco
and tomato juice?
Some sort of alcohol and yeah. It's the kind of drink that would kill me off.
Yeah, it's kind of the moment where Luke starts fancying David. When Luke takes a sip, he's like, oh my god, that's awful. And David takes a sip and he's just like, nothing. It's like, how are you doing that? So now you know this guy's up to no good. And these little moments are kind of camp and just this perfection of David. He can do anything. There's nothing he can't do. And Dan Stevens really plays into it. And it's really amusing.
Well, this is, and I've never seen the film, but is this giving sort of Roadhouse energy? Patrick Swayze.
I've never seen Roadhouse.
Well, Roadhouse, the idea is that he's a bouncer in this kind of bar, sort of backwards.
Yeah.
Obviously very 80s, set in the 80s. But bar, so he would have these kind of bar brawls.
Yeah.
I mean, bar brawls are in loads of 80s films, action cinema, so... I mean, it's a cool, really cool scene.
It is. It's really great, and it took I think it was 2 days to shoot. But it's a really great scene, and it kind of David really isn't that much of a bad character. I mean, first of all, he beats up bullies. Second of all, he stops underage drinking because he uses his knowledge of the law and underage drinking as well as a bribe to convince the bartender to not tell anyone what happened there. This is the first heroic thing he does. First of some, actually. A few. That evening, David continues his heroic ways when he goes to a Halloween party with a reluctant Anna, where he makes a good impression with her friends by smoking weed and passing the joint to Anna. He turns up, he says 420 blaze it, and he passes it around. He's like, I'm actually a good guy.
He's like, I'm going to smoke this joint, and I'm not going to make it my personality.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Before we go to the party, though, we have to talk about the scene.
Which scene?
The scene.
The scene.
The scene where Anna goes to the bathroom and she thinks that her brother's in there having a shit, taking ages. And Dan Stevens emerges from this steamy bathroom in nothing but a towel, and she is fucking gagged.
She's gagged.
This is the moment where she's like, suspicions be damned. Oh my god.
She's like, okay, this guy can get away with anything now. What a handsome fella.
Yeah. Yeah. The most popular, probably the most replayed scene with the girls and the gays.
Yes, probably, yes.
David saves Anna's friend Kristen from her violent ex-boyfriend when he tries grabbing her in the kitchen. So him and Kristen have awkward sex. And parallel. Then David asks Anna's friend Craig where he can buy a gun. And because it's America, no one thinks anything of it.
No.
On their way home, they listen to Masquerade by Clan of Zymox, and Anna offers to make David a mix CD after bitching to him about her boyfriend Zeke. Clan of Zymox, great 80s band that I only know from this film.
Oh, it was an actual 80s band?
Yeah.
It's hard to tell sometimes.
With this film, it's very hard to tell.
I find this and Drive.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell what's a throwback and what's, at the time, a brand new sort of song. Obviously, in this film, there's one iconic one, which I will.
Yes. This is mostly 80s.
About.
That's probably the only one that isn't an 80s song.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. And I think a lot of it is... So, the idea that he is the good guy, but he's using violence to resolve the issues. I mean, it's very 80s, very 80s action movie.
Yeah. And also says a lot about the army and US politics, I think.
Yeah, because you look at something and I haven't, strangely, and I maybe shouldn't admit this, but it's true for you as well. We've only seen the latest Rambo film.
That's true. That's true.
But I feel like the Rambo is a bit sort of glorifying that kind of violence to a certain degree.
Yeah, no, definitely. The next day, Anna overhears, and just when she's starting to trust him and making him mix CDs, which is the most 2014 thing, by the way, mix CDs.
I have to say, even by 2014, I don't feel like I was listening to CDs. I feel like I had my little iPod Touch.
iPod Classic.
No, iPod Touch, thank you. I feel like I had that by that point.
I think I watched this on
it's
an
cool.
iPod
It's
Classic.
a nice little retro twist, isn't it?
It is.
Little mix CD to put in his car.
The next day, she overhears him on the phone telling someone he needs to make sure he can't be traced by his teeth and that he needs a new face in a way similar to the plot of The Stepfather Part 3. So Anna calls the military base to check David's records. The call alerts a private corporation called the KPG, headed by Major Carver, who assembles a special forces team and heads for Peterson's home. This gagged me when I first watched it, because you don't really think it's going to have a twist. It's just going to be a weirdo. It's as simple as that. It's a nice guy. It's going to go wrong. That's it. So when it's kind of like, oh, he's dead. Oh, shit. I was not expecting that.
Yeah, I feel like there was hints, not to that, but obviously something's off.
Yeah.
Something's not quite right, because you have these moments where he's staring very blankly into space.
Yeah.
Almost robotic-like. So you have those moments. So something's off.
Yeah.
But you're not sure quite why. So then obviously the plot thickens, you get these twists and turns throughout, and one of them is that he died.
Yeah.
And Anna, she's obviously sort of aware that he seems a little dodgy now. But I also think that, like she said, her initial reservations weren't necessarily to do with him being dodgy, but the idea that her family needed the time to grieve, and having a constant reminder of their dead son, he would have loved that. Having a constant reminder of their dead son would have been bad for them within the grieving process, and then obviously turns into something more sinister as the film goes on.
It gets even more sinister when David meets Craig and his friend to buy the gun, but kills them and steals their weapons like they're Dick Smith in 1984 gun shops.
Yes. Yeah.
Anna receives a call back about David and is told that he presumably died a week earlier, and it's revealed that Spencer's boss died under mysterious circumstances, giving Spencer the promotion he always wanted, and this now makes Spencer regional manager on his boss's salary. Anna then learns about Craig's death and that Zeke has been blamed for it. So, we watched what happened with Craig and his friend, so it's kind of like, okay, he's definitely just going to kill Spencer's boss.
Yeah, and I think the more we're talking about this, the more I'm kind of thinking that this film is, like you said, speaking on the military.
Yeah.
And how this guy is a very all-American, handsome military guy who is given a lot of trust by people.
Yeah.
And he thinks he's doing what's best for everyone, but he's not. He's actually causing more problems than he's resolving.
Yeah.
But because it comes in this great packaging, that people trust him.
Yeah.
And the guy that he shoots, he's buying the guns from, he says that he was in the Navy as well. So he feels like David's a kindred spirit.
Yeah.
So he kind of trusts him more than he should.
Yeah.
And it backfires. And I think maybe this is a comment on the military, and
I think so.
Particularly how it's seen in America.
Yeah.
And it's always been a hot topic. And I think, and maybe people had sat there being like, oh, you dumbass, why didn't you realise that? But talking about it, I realised, oh, okay, wow, this does have the layers that I was asking for.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, when you think of it in the way that, like you said, Spencer's talking to him about his boss and the terrible things he's done, Anna's talking to him about Zeke and, how much he's in the mood of him. Just little flippant throwaway comments. And he's seen it as, right, these people have done something wrong. I've got to go kill them. I'm a soldier. I've got to go fucking kill him or frame him or...
Yeah.
It's really, really well layered.
But involving himself in a situation without fully sort of thinking it through, using brute force to resolve every issue that these people have had is, it's not ironic that he's a veteran of the war in Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
You know, UK and the US have a history of involving themselves in these situations and using brute force to try and resolve other people's issues.
Mm-hmm.
So, absolutely. Oh wow, okay.
David gives Luke advice on dealing with bullies and gives him his butterfly knife whilst carving pumpkins. Now, another thing with this film is the Halloween aesthetic. Oh, I love it so much. I love it when films have this Halloween setting, and this does it so well.
Yes.
So,
It doesn't overdo it.
No.
I think it is a trope that's maybe been done a little to death now.
Well,
this was 10 years ago.
I'm not sick of it. I mean, it makes for a great final set piece for the final act.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Well, we'll get to that. I'm not going to spoil it for everyone.
Anna tells her parents about the Craig and Zeke situation, which leads her dad to rant about how much he doesn't like Zeke. So Anna tells them out of anger about being told that David's dead. No, he's not. He's in there asleep.
Not that David, my ex-husband.
He tells her that the military tell people things...
Surely everyone knows that reference.
I hope so. He tells her that the military tell people things like that because of confidentiality, and then shows the family his dog tags. And of course, you're fine.
Again, just believing him. You know, bring out the dog tags. Everyone's going to believe you. You know, thank you for your service. You know, it's that kind of trust that's given to the military. And now, you know, we were speaking earlier, and maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but we were speaking earlier about sort of lots of the film being left open to interpretation. I think maybe that's because in real life, there's a lot of stuff that's going on that we never learn about. Yeah. We see the consequences of. Yeah. But we never learn about the reasons, the behind the scenes stuff, what is Area 51-ness of it all, you know, and maybe that is deliberate and that works better that way.
Anna asks Luke to research the numbers David has called on his phone, his burner phone.
Oh.
And at school, one of the bullies assaults Luke again and calls him the F slur, but he fights back by punching him in the face and hitting him with a yardstick.
Not the bunch of sticks slur.
Bunch of sticks followed by a yardstick. After they are both sent to the principal's office, David arrives and coerces the principal to give Luke a month of after-school detention and threatens legal action if the principal expels him because Luke is an F-slur and the bullies were being homophobic. So David said, "Get right."
And I like how it's not defined whether he's gay or not.
Yeah. I kind of assumed he was. Even before that happened.
But it's not defined. So it's not a case of... because I feel like if after all that, he said, well, I'm not gay. Yeah. Then I feel like it would have made it a bit of a joke. Yeah. And I'm glad that they didn't do it either way. In the sense of, you know, he doesn't feel like he has to come out. No. Which is great, you know, because, you know, he doesn't have to, but people are still there to defend him. Yeah. Without him having to have the big coming out scene. Maybe making that part of the film different to what it's meant to be. Yeah. So it's just accepted he either is or isn't. It's I liked that aspect. Yeah.
And just David squashing homophobia. Again, another heroic act. Yeah. Luke tells David of Anna's suspicions. He's so impressed by him standing up for him that he's just like, yeah, no, she's trying to find out information on you. He's like, oh, I promise not to investigate any further or tell anyone else. And he's like, oh, I know you killed my dad's boss, but it's fine, it's okay. Yeah. Oh my god, you are a thirsty bitch, and it's this is
very thirsty.
Oh very my messy. God, ridiculous. You have literally just caused the death of multiple people.
It's true.
Whilst David helps Laura with the laundry, Major Carver's team attacks the house, but David kills all of them except for Carver. And his cover's blown. He's with Laura in the kitchen. she's still like, oh, what's going on? I don't get this. I don't understand what's going on. And he literally stabs her. The second before she dies, she's like, he's in here, he's in the kitchen. But that's it. Like a second before she died. Up until that point, she still trusted him.
Yeah. No, and I've got here in my notes, not her last words being, he's here in the kitchen. And also, oh, Laura, get a grip. The what are they called? Sheets, white sheets.
The white sheets.
Blowing on a line in the wind.
Yeah.
Every 80s horror film. It's given Friday the 13th Part 3. It's giving, oh my God, Halloween 6.
Yeah.
You know, they love these scenes. Oh, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you know. Sheets blown in the wind.
Yeah.
You got me.
He drives away and then kills Spencer as well by crashing into his car. Carver picks up Anna from the diner.
Hear a secret.
What?
So Spencer.
The dad. He picks up Anna, Carver does, and informs her of her parents' deaths. He reveals that David was a test subject in a military medical experiment and was programmed to kill anyone who might compromise his identity, and is unlikely to be able to stop even if he wanted to. So again, that just adds like a bigger threat now. It's like, okay, this guy is, as the episode is titled, an unstoppable hunky killer machine. Fuck.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, and literally, it's, again, this is when it gets really intense. He just walks in, David walks in to the diner where Anna works after she's gone, shoots poor Kristen in the chest, and just blows the place up. He goes to the school to kill Luke. Carver and Anna arrive at the school before David and enter a haunted house set up for the Halloween dance, which features spooky clowns, a fox mask with "You're next" written on the wall.
Ooh.
And my favourite touch, the silver shamrock masks from Halloween 3 as big decorations, amongst other things.
There we go.
David turns off the lights and plays a Day by Clan of Zymox on Anna's mix CD, and then kills Luke's teacher, who has a great moustache, by the way, and then Carver with a box cutter.
Yeah, I love the Mirror Maze synth pop thing going on. I think that looks great.
It's a great setting. It's,
SOS, please.
It is. It's very SOS. Yeah, it's this really amps up the horror elements of the film, and it's just such a great setting for it.
Yeah. Guess he needs to get a hold of himself, just like his mum.
Oh God. I don't know what's going on, but David wouldn't hurt us.
David wouldn't hurt us.
Bitch, seriously?
The things gays will allow a good-looking man to get away with. They're actually even worse than the women.
They are.
They really are. Trust me.
Yeah. Anna shoots David with Carver's gun, but David stabs her in the leg and attempts to choke her as the gun misfires and damages a light, starting a fire whilst Antonio, the Berlin Breakdown version by Annie, plays.
This is... I would have been listening to this song in 2014, maybe a little earlier, in 2014. This was my jam. Love it. I find it high camp that this is playing as all this death and destruction goes on. Love it.
Luke stabs David twice with the butterfly knife, which frees Anna, finally gets a grip. And David tells Luke that he did the right thing and gives him a thumbs up before collapsing. Sitting in an ambulance, Anna and Luke... And by the way, I love the use of the smoke machine in that scene.
Yes, yeah. Looks great.
Sitting in an ambulance, Anna and Luke overhear the firefighters say that only 2 corpses were recovered. As several firefighters exit the school, Anna notices one of them is limping. He turns to face her, and it is David... using the disguise to quietly escape the scene. Cry in the Wind by Clan of Zemox plays over the end credits, and that is The Guest. How has it not had a sequel?
Because it made no money.
2.7 million, I suppose.
Yeah. It didn't make...
On a 5 million budget.
Didn't make the money, honey. So they decided to use that ending again for Halloween Kills.
Yes.
Oh, spoiler alert for Halloween Kills.
My Bloody Valentine 3D was before this,
Oh,
so it's probably a
okay.
nod to that.
Yes, probably. When the say being the firefighter, definitely. Yeah. Rumor has it Evil died the next night.
But yeah, I really, really love this. Again, like I was saying about Lisa Frankenstein at the start of the episode, it's very much a film that feels like it's tailor-made for me. It's just everything I love. It is the Terminator, but cool and modern and stylish. Not that I don't think. I think the 80s aesthetic in Terminator is very cool, but in a modern kind of way. And the soundtrack, it's intense, great performances, great cast. Honestly, when you really look into it, it's actually kind of funny in a lot of ways, and I think that's fully intentional.
Yeah.
Interesting commentary, great ending. I really love it.
Yeah. I've kind of this is the opposite to a few of the episodes recently, but I've taught myself into enjoying the film more than I thought I did.
Yeah.
I love the aesthetic. I love the soundtrack. I like how it's definitely an amalgamation of a lot of 80s action films.
Yeah.
Particularly
And
John
horror.
Carpenter and horror, definitely. But particularly John Carpenter, who I think maybe more than anyone else has perfectly blended horror and action in his filmography. It definitely has a lot in common with the Terminator, which is what we'll be discussing. But I liked the commentary as well. I think a few bits could have been ironed out, this, that, and the other, but I did think it was an enjoyable experience.
Yeah. Ratings, I give it 10 dumb people dying for being digmatized out of 10.
And I give it 7 Downton baddies out of 10.
Downton baddies! Masterpiece, trash, basically Campbell, bunch of fun. Personally, I'd go with Masterpiece. What would you go with?
It's difficult because it's none of them. It's a great film, in my opinion. Obviously, this is all my opinion. But yeah, I think it's a great film.
It's available on DVD, Blu-ray, 4K UHD. It has 4K release, and the Terminator doesn't.
Ooh.
Video on demand, ITVX, and Plex.
Ooh. I think it's nice that it's got a 4K release.
Yeah.
I think that's good,
Yeah, Second Sight.
Yeah,
a nice version
it's
of it.
given called classic.
Yeah. Definitely. So, let's get to the awards. And for this episode, we will be giving awards to one or the other. We don't want to pit them against each other, but let's just do it that way. It's fun that way. Biggest queen. It's got to be Sarah Connor.
It's Sarah Connor.
She saved mankind.
She did.
Annie is a great character. Anna, should I say, is a great character.
Annie.
Not the singer.
Not the singer.
Anna is a great character, and she almost saves the day. Look at her part in it as well. But it's Sarah Connor.
Yeah, I like a suspicious queen, but Sarah Connor, for who she was and who she would go on to be as well.
Biggest gasp for me, it goes back to when I first watched the Terminator, and gotta go from your first time watching these films. And for me, it's the Terminator's wrist and eye surgery, because that horrified me as a kid.
Yeah, I gotta go for the first time I watched it as well. Totally unsuspecting Arnie's cock.
Yeah,
it is. It was the biggest gasp for me. I didn't realize. I mean, for what I thought was heralded as sci-fi classic, action movie classic, sort of an older version of sort of a film bro kind of film, let's be honest, I was surprised that there was that male nudity in there. Like, oh, wow.
Best dialogue, I have a tie. It's "You're dead, honey," Nancy in the Terminator, and "You terminated fucker," Sarah in the Terminator.
I did go with "You're dead, honey."
Nat's camp, it's another tie. I've got to give the guests something. First, I gave it to the tech noir disco dancing on the Terminator. And Annie confronting David in a Halloween school disco setup whilst Antonio by Annie plays in the guest.
That was camp, but I did go with Linda and Michael trying to act out a sexy lovemaking scene. God bless them.
And before we finish this episode, let's discuss the similarities.
Yes.
So, of course, we have muscly men showing up out of nowhere to kill people because they were programmed to.
Yeah, I would say that in The Guest, David is sort of a amalgamation of the Terminator and Carl Reese.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it definitely plays on aspects of both those characters.
Yes. Yeah.
Conventionally attractive guy who gets away with
Yeah, that's another one of mine.
stuff.
Yeah.
The military programmed guy who kills anything remorselessly. Really, he has no real feelings.
Yeah.
Definitely a comparison there.
Plus, he forms a relationship with / tries to kill a waitress lead, female lead.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely.
So that's definitely a big parallel. Both killers acquire guns and then kill the people selling the guns to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Dick Miller, famously in the Terminator.
Yeah.
And 2 other people in the guest.
The guy from Avatar in the guest. The guy Pete from Sabrina Teenage Witch in the guest.
He's pretty much up there with Dick Miller. Yeah.
Synth scores, fantastic synth scores for both.
Yeah.
Both have awkward sex scenes.
Definitely, yes.
And, as you said, women put in so much trust in conventionally attractive men. And one of the main ones here, both could easily pass as horror films, and both were initially intended to be horror films.
Yes.
It shows. It shows, because I would class both of these as horror films myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Because horror, I think horror sometimes gets pigeonholed into what constitutes a horror film.
Yeah.
Now, you can have horror sci-fi, and horror doesn't have to be gore and over-the-top kills and stuff like that. It can be something that's scary. The Terminator and The Guest, they're scary films. They have scary moments. I also thought a comparison between the two was the idea that innocent people are drawn into a sort of military situation that puts their lives in danger through not their choice.
Yeah. Agreed.
Through a son.
Yeah.
They're both drawn into a dangerous situation involving the military.
Yeah. A son who isn't alive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Terminator, not alive yet. In The Guest, unfortunately, it passed away.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think there's a parallel there.
Yeah.
And I think these are very deliberate with The Guest. I do actually think that.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think, obviously, this is coming from a writer-director who has a great love of 80s movies.
Yeah.
The Terminator definitely being one of them.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I'd recommend checking out both.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, definitely.
So let us know which one you prefer. We are Horror Cult Trash over on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Horror Cult Trash on Twitter. I'm Deadite-Gaz92 on Letterboxd, Gaz9205 on Instagram, and GazChris92 on Twitter.
I'm Chris Barker823 on Letterboxd and Instagram.
And we are also Gasp Horror Fest across all social media. Tickets are on sale now for our festival taking place in June on the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd at Coolplex. Go and check it out to find out more. Give us a rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes, like a follow on everything else. Next week, Mix and March continues. And we are discussing All About Eve. And we are revisiting Showgirls. We did our Showgirls dirty.
We did.
A little. When a second episode we ever did. And it was back in the mindset of, Showgirls such a bad film. We've watched it 1,000 times since. And we have a lot more to say.
It was a long time ago. I feel like we've both grown.
Don't expect the same thing.
Don't go listen to it in anticipation.
Or do. See how it changes.
Okay, maybe. But yes, we'll be discussing the parallels between 2 of my all-time favourite films, All About Eve and Showgirls. I am so excited.
And you think there are parallels between Terminator and The Guest? You fucking wait for this one.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see you same time. You'll hear us same time, same place next week.
Bye.